One of the many things that sets the foundational operations apart is the tripartite oversight and management of the organization and the operations. It's a tripartite oversight committee, and again, the idea is to be decentralized as possible, with the domestic and international organizations serving primarily to coordinate logistics and support as needed, because some areas, the salt marshes along the coast, are not going to be as agriculturally productive as some of the mountainous regions. And while you certainly don't want to take away from any population, you also don't want to allow people to suffer while you have surplus. So there will be domestic and international, eventually international logistics and support. We have numerous groups. I can't believe it, man. We got some amazing groups that, if I can get the programs going here, they're going to set it up in Borneo, in the Borneo rainforest basin. They want to set it up in the Amazon rainforest basin in Brazil, and they want to. We've had some issues. We've already got a not-for-profit foundation for OPISAC in the DRC, the Democratic Republic of the Congo. But there were some issues in getting the program introduced. The president wanted it. The president-elect wanted it. Or not president-elect. He's president, but he's running for re-election. But they wanted a substantial volume of money to help people do things that they're perfectly capable of doing on their own. So these people that are perfectly capable were not going to spend a lot of money to pay a nobody to help them do something that they can already do. But regardless of that, once the programs have been established, we should have a viable level of support to move into the Congo rainforest basin as well. In terms of the tripartite agreements and the oversight and management of operations, that is established through the domestic and international representatives of the social support services team, which, for example, if you've got something, an organization in Orlando, Florida, and you've got an organization in Reno, Nevada, just for example, while you've got organizations all over the world, but only those two are affected, the social support service team leaders from those areas will be invited to the national or international conference to provide a voice for the programs that are at least ostensibly established for those regions, and they will be able to provide a direct vote on behalf of the people at the local level. Those votes, since they are direct, dog, would you just stop? Those votes, since they are directly representative of the people that will be directly impacted by the programs, will have a higher value. They'll have a higher weight for the vote process. The needs of the incorporated body will be addressed. Insofar as we want greedy, capitalist, commercial go-getters running the corporations, because that's the only way they're going to be economically viable. And while there is a lot of talk about alternative economic systems, circular economies, resource-based economics, and many of them are viable systems. I will not deny that for a moment. But if you try to implement an alternative economic system, look at the hassles BRICS is having. I'm not saying BRICS is any better than the Federal Reserve and central banking system. I'm not saying it's any worse. But if you try to implement a new economic system, you're going to get shut down. That's just a reality. So working within the confines of the current economic system, we definitely want commercial ventures to thrive. The commercial ventures will be staffed by 12 to 15% of the personnel from the formerly vulnerable members of society. They're going to fund the schools, they're going to fund the hospitals, they're going to fund the training programs, they're going to fund the business expansion. That's going to provide more jobs and more resources for more humanitarian programs. So absolutely, we want those to succeed. The key is going to be in the establishment of foundation and incorporated bylaws and articles of incorporation that prevent anybody from overriding the ability to provide an enforceable voice to the localized regions. And we think we've done that by having the requirements in place for any local programs to be represented by local representatives at the international and national levels. And you gotta love my dogs. I love my dogs, but they're noisy. Almost as noisy as the chickens sometimes. Maybe a little bit louder. But the foundation will of course have a voice because it's ultimately at the end of the day legally accountable and responsible for all of the actions of the incorporation. The incorporation will be responsible in and of itself for the commercial ventures, but commercial ventures will be established locally and set up at the local level and staffed by local people. And at such a time, theoretically at least, if you did fully eradicate poverty, even in one town, one city, one municipality, those programs can be extended to regions outside of that locale and utilized to further reduce poverty in the surrounding locations. And in a picture-perfect world, at the end of the day, each program would continue expanding until such a time that poverty in itself anywhere in the world would be nothing but a statistical anomaly. And while that's not a very realistic goal in our lifetimes, that might be at some time in the future, but in the meantime, by separating and providing a weighted voice to each group involved in the decision-making process, and by forcing that to a common vote for anyone to even think about changing it, just to get it out on the ballot, it would have to have a common vote of everybody that is involved, all the beneficiaries, all the representatives, and to implement that program would require an additional vote. So, you take the average person, they don't care about jury duty, they don't care about voting necessarily unless there's a hot button topic or, a very small portion of the population, maybe 40% is hyperactive politically. Most people don't care. Most people are generally apathetic. Key question: what's the difference between ignorance and apathy? I don't know. I don't care. Yeah, that's about it. And that's going to be funny to somebody. But yeah, most people don't care. In reality, most people think I'm just a person, Edward Hale aside, Edward Hale, I am a man. I am only a man. I cannot do everything, but I am a man. Therefore, I shall not fail to do that which I can do. Paraphrasing, of course. But so, there's a lot to be said for that. But we think that we've got a pretty solid setup so that it will be virtually impossible for the incorporation to take over, or the foundation to become dictatorial in nature, or for the people themselves to interfere with the operations of the corporation and prevent that from funding the necessary programs to extend and continue the humanitarian projects. So we do think the introduction of the ombudsman program with the tripartite organizational structure is going to be a more viable option. So again, if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, or if you want to know about our commercial investment opportunities, if you have any questions at all, please don't hesitate to let us know. Thank you. Please like, share, subscribe, and comment below.